Good evening and welcome to HC Highlanders Live. I'm Jason Muker, Associate AD here at Houghton. I'm joined by our Director of Athletics, Matthew Webb. Hello. It's been a couple weeks. We've had the summer's been crazy, obviously, as we've transitioned from our spring to our summer. One thing you may notice if you're a regular viewer is we have a new location. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're allowed to go to the office, and we'll chat a little bit about that. Matt will give us some updates in a bit about what our plans are, or as much as we know them, for returning to campus. Student athletes coming back to campus. Maybe some of the conversations have been going on with the NCAA and also Empire 8, and here on campus as well, of what's this rest of the summer going to look like, what's the fall, the transition back to school going to look like. And specifically, as you're interested, the transition back to athletics and competition and practice for our student athletes. He'll also give an update on what our program is going to look like. This HC Highlanders Live, we want this to be a regular thing, maybe sporadically during the summer, but get into a little bit more of a regular structured broadcast throughout the fall. I think it's a great way to get to know our coaches, our current athletes, former athletes, administrators on campus, and we're trying to get some guests that you may or may not know, and a chance to learn a little bit more about them. Some of the news that's happened, I think the big news is we, in terms of our teams, great academic semester for our teams. Matt can talk a little bit more about that. 3.46 GPA. We've set a record for the most teams to be all academic teams for our conference, and the most student athletes to make the Empire 8 President's List. We also have some more news coming out this week from our NCCAA, some team academic awards on the national level from the Christian College Athletic Association, and we'll touch a little bit on that. But right now, we'll turn it over to Matt, and he'll tell you about today's program.
Thanks, Jason. It's good to be back, and like Jason said, it's been a couple weeks since we've been here in this forum. Probably one of the most immediate changes, noticeable changes, is our backgrounds. Jason and I are in our offices. Since we last met with you and did this, we've now we're moving through the phases in New York State, and one of the phases that's opened up that allows us to be back is sort of administrative work and staff. So those of us that are not still working through the summer are able to be back in the office, and so that's sort of for as much as I liked being home and being with my kids and my wife, there's something nice about getting back into what feels like a little bit more of a normal routine, being in my office. So that's one change. Like Jason said, we're really proud of our student athletes this past spring. I'm forgetting the exact number, but I know it was over 80 of our student athletes were on the Empire 8 President's List, and our team GPA is as high as they've ever been, and they really finished well, and particularly in the midst of COVID and transitioning to online learning and all of the upheaval that they had to manage and navigate, to finish well was really good, and we're really proud of them. Yeah, lots of questions out there about what things are going to look like in the fall, and our administrative team here at the college is working daily in close collaboration with the state and the health department and other governing and oversight agencies in terms of what residence life's going to look like, what classes are going to look like, just the format in which everything's going to be held, dining hall, what are things going to look like. And so there's a lot of work going into our plan to return in the fall, and I know Mark Smithers and his team in student life and as the chair of the emergency management team is regularly sending out information in terms of what the fall and return to school is going to look like. And a big question wrapped up in that is, what's athletics going to look like? And we get the question, are we going to have sports? And yes, the plan is to have sports, and our objective is to create an environment, and what we're working on in our team here is creating a plan and policies and protocols to ensure, as much as we're able to, the safety and well-being of our students, student athletes and constituents. We're planning to be back. Our student athletes are coming back August 19th. That's the same date that they were going to come back anyway. The rest of our student body is actually going to be returning a little bit earlier than normal. So our athletes will only be on campus a few days before everybody else begins to return. But our plan is to resume our sports activities, our schedules. There may be some alterations, adjustments as we put our plans in place, but we intend to have a full athletic program this fall, barring any outside agencies saying that we can't. But at this point, we have no reason to believe that's going to happen, and fully anticipate operating our athletic programs again. So we're working closely with our conference, with the NCAA, with the state and the Department of Health and so forth. So we've got all kinds of guidelines and parameters that we're working in, and we're looking forward to how that's going to be pulled off. So as we sort of go through the summer with this particular program, just keep your eyes open on social media. We're not going to be doing this every week. We're hoping for sort of an every other week sort of format here for the next month and a half, 2 months or so, and then resume a little bit more regularly once school starts. But just keep your eyes on social media as you'll see updates in terms of our program. I do want to just make mention of, I think, what's going on in our world today, that we are living really in a time of crisis. I think a moment in time that's going to go down in our history of our country as a very pivotal, formative time. I think about the young people that are living through this and navigating this and anticipating college or anticipating going into the workplace, and it's just looking different than it did as recently as 4 or 5 months ago. We've got the COVID pandemic. We've got the racial injustice that's really come to the forefront. Not that it's anything new, but it's really come to the forefront now. We've got the mental health pandemic, I would say, and sort of the impact on our students and on our society, and the political unrest that is wrapped up in all of these issues as well. And I think about, we see a lot in the media, professional athletes in the world of sport. It's sort of interesting, without any sporting events going on these last few months, ESPN has been running strong, and people keep talking about sports, and the milieu of sport is a very visible, vocal milieu environment, and people hear that, and as athletes, as a department of athletics, I think a lot are going to be looking to us as to what are we going to say, what are we going to do, how are we going to lead. People hear people in the sports world, and I think we have a responsibility to that. So we're spending time talking about and preparing to lead our department, to lead our student athletes who are going to come back to us changed from what they were 4 or 5 months ago. Understandably, as we all are, in terms of everything that we're hearing every day and things that we're trying to process and take in and wrestle with, and how do we respond? What do we say? What do we do? How do we as Christians respond? And what do we say as Christians? And what do we do? And I think about the history of our department of really emphasizing sports ministry and using the platform of sport to communicate the love of Jesus Christ. And I don't think that's changed. And in fact, it might even be more important now than ever that we continue to have that emphasis and that perspective on what our responsibility is as athletes, as coaches, as administrators, in this time where there's lots of questions and lots of uncertainty and lots of stress and anxiety. But that we have the opportunity to be a voice and be a light in our world of sport, ultimately to direct people to the love of Jesus Christ. And that's our goal, that's our objective. And as we, as a department, and as our athlete coaches and staff, as we talk and wrestle with about what are we going to do and how are we going to respond and what are we going to say, that's the umbrella, that's the context under which we want to operate, is to ultimately, how do we show the love of Jesus Christ? And how do we speak that to our constituents, to our athletes, to those that are looking to us to lead? So with that being said, I want to bring our guest on today. Coach Phil Pellegrino is our newest addition to our coaching staff. Coach Pellegrino is our new women's basketball coach. Comes to us most recently as an assistant coach at Elmira College, so one of our sister Empire 8 schools. Phil is an alum of our program. He played for 3 years, for us in our men's basketball program. Graduated in
2017.
2017 graduated, right. So welcome, Phil. It's great to have you here and to be part of our staff. And thanks for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me. My background's not quite as exciting as yours is, but we'll make do with it.
Well, let's get to know you here a little bit, Phil. Why don't you start by just sharing with us a little bit, sort of where you're from. Tell us about your family. Maybe tell us a little bit about how you got into basketball and, how that led you to where you are today.
So I'm originally from Rochester, New York. Rochester is where pretty much my whole family's from. I grew up with my mom, my dad, my sister. My grandparents are both from Rochester. My aunts and uncles are all from Rochester. We've all kind of spread out and sprayed all over the country now. My aunt and uncle live in Las Vegas. I have cousins and aunt and uncle in Connecticut, down in Houston. We're down all over the place at this point. We are family's the number one thing to me. Family is so important. I try to stay in contact with my family almost every day, whether it's a call, text, whatever it is. We are without a doubt a baseball family. So I grew up, the Yankees were on TV 162 games of the year. My dad would watch every Yankees game.
I'm a Red Sox fan, Phil.
It was, trust me, I got sick of the Yankees too. It was a sport that was just very prevalent in my family. It was the first sport I ever did. It was just something that was always around in my life. A funny story about my family that my dad will always tell anybody. So my dad's cousin went to college down in Florida at a school called Miami-Dade Community College. He was a starting shortstop, had a great freshman year, starting his sophomore year, he hurt his knee, season-ending injury. His backup came in for him by a guy of the name of Bucky Dent, who later went on to be obviously Yankees World Series champion, everything. So that's our claim to fame in the Pellegrino family, that my dad's cousin was a starting shortstop over Bucky Dent before he got hurt. What kind of took me to here? So I grew up in Brighton, New York, a suburb right outside Rochester. I went to Brighton High School. It was a big public school. Our class sizes might actually be similar size, if not bigger, to what the class sizes are at Houghton College right now. Out of high school, I actually didn't choose to go to Houghton College right off the bat. I didn't know of it too well. I chose a different school for major purposes. Ended up transferring into Houghton College for the last 3 years, and it was the best decision of my life. I majored in biology with an emphasis of pre-physical therapy. And then after college, I found myself going to Elmira, New York, being an assistant coach there for the last 3 years, obtaining my master's. Now I'm back at Houghton. So that's kind of my journey. Never really left New York too much. I'm familiar with most places in New York at this point, and I love it, and I don't see myself leaving New York.
That's awesome. So let's dig a little bit. Why Houghton? What was it about Houghton that drew you to us? After a year at Alfred, Alfred's obviously a great institution. This isn't really about Alfred, but what was it particular that drew you to Houghton?
So I'll start with actually what drew me to Alfred. So drawing me to Alfred was the major. I was recruited for basketball by law schools. It just seemed like the best fit at the time. When I was at Alfred, like you stated, it's a great institution. I loved my time at Alfred. I just felt like I needed a little more. One of the main contacts is actually my best friend of today. We grew up playing AAU basketball together in a suburb outside of Rochester. His name is Brandon Camacho. He started spitting out the idea to Houghton to me, told me what it's all about and how many connections and how many genuine people that you meet at Houghton, how everybody believes in the same things, and it's just the community that it is in general. And I said, that actually sounds incredible. That sounds like what I'm missing in my life right now. I took a visit to Houghton, And I knew right on my visit that that was the place for me for the next 3 years. And it was the best decision I've ever made to transfer to Houghton. And like I said, I made my lifelong friends at Houghton. I made lifelong connections at Houghton. The community itself is the most welcoming community that I've ever seen in my life. And there's just something special about it. I tell all the people, you don't really know Houghton, know how special the community is until you come to Houghton and see the campus and see the people around and see the connections you make. So transferring to Houghton was the best decision, probably will be the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Yeah, that's great. The word that I like to use when I describe Houghton to people, and I think sometimes it can be a little scary because it has more of a romantic sort of interpretation for a lot of people, but it's very intimate. But I just think the intimacy of relationships, the close bond that so many folks have in the community, which actually extends beyond just the college, but obviously the college is, the majority of our community. But
yeah,
I think the word intimacy is a good description of
absolutely. And to go on that, I've always told people in Brighton and Alfred, I had a lot of friends. In Houghton, I had genuine friends, genuine people, professors, everything that cared about you as a person. I didn't think going to play college basketball that I'd see my professors at a college basketball game. I didn't think playing college basketball that I'd still be in contact with both of my coaches that I had at that time. That was stuff that I didn't anticipate. Out of high school, you anticipate going to play college basketball, going to get a job after. That was just a part of your life, and then you leave it in the past. Now I realize because of Houghton College, it is always a part of you, and you always want to come back, and you always want to seek out those connections that you made at Houghton.
Yeah, that's super. That's super. So Phil, I know you took out of college, you were considering a bit of a different path, more in the medical arena, physical therapy kind of stuff. Talk to me about how coaching became the path, and for you, like, what's the best thing about coaching? Why are you pursuing that? Why are you loving that so much?
So the coaching path, for lack of a better term, I don't know if I found it, but it found me. When in college, I originally went for engineering, decided that wasn't for me. I switched my major to biology with an emphasis of free physical therapy. It sounds bad. I didn't really plan out my future step by step. I was more of a person that, wow, I came to school. I want to play basketball. I want to get a good education. I want to do this, that, whatever. And I just kept going day by day. Once graduation came, I was applying to physical therapy schools. I got into a couple, and I was set on doing that. Once the day came around that graduation was coming up, I said, I can't put down the basketball. I can't put this down yet. I didn't realize how much I was generally going to miss the game, miss being around people and impacting others' lives. So I started seeking out a couple grad assistantships to be able to get my master's, stay in the game a little longer, coach. I didn't know where it was going to lead. I knew I wanted to be a part of the game since I was a little kid, but I didn't know in what stretch I wanted to be a part of the game. I found a Meyer College where I got taken under the wing of Coach Torgalski there for the men's basketball team, a great mentor in my life now, somebody that checks in on me every day. And he made me fall in love with coaching. So before I was in love with basketball, and I knew I loved basketball. Then I knew when I got to Elmira College, when we started preseason, I knew I loved coaching. One of the coaching stories that I always tell people that's so different from my playing experience, one of our first tournaments that we had, it was actually a preseason tournament. You get one every 4 years where you can go to an international. We went to Montreal, Canada as a team. It was beginning of November. I was doing good. I thought I was doing a good job coaching in the preseason right out of college. Like, I thought my transition was going pretty smoothly. Like, oh, this isn't a big deal. I can make this transition. Not too different. Once we got to that tournament up there, the first game, I was pacing the hallways. I was walking back and forth and back and forth. And then I had to go talk to somebody. Then I had to go check my phone. Then I went back to my locker, and Coach Torgalski kept seeing me pacing back and forth and back and forth. He goes, Phil, what's going on? Are you okay? I've never seen you frantic. I try to consider myself a pretty calm person. I didn't let my emotions get the best of me when I played. He's like, this is very, like, what are you doing right now? Are you nervous? I said, I have never been more nervous in my life. This is the first time that I feel like I don't have control over the situation that's going to happen in a game. All of our work, all of my work to prepare for the game is already done. Now that I'm there, it's up to the players. I don't say who the ball is going to. I don't say if the ball is going in. I feel like I have very little impact. And that's one of the things that kind of drove me to coaching, in a sense that, like, I've always been a hard worker, and it kind of showed there that you have to work 24/7, 365 at this game to be prepared for the game, because once the game comes around, the coach doesn't have too much of an impact on it. So I have to do everything even more than what I did as a player to make sure the team is ready. And that's something that I fell in love with there.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I think that's one of the joys. I think that's one of the big stresses of coaching, isn't it? That game time, and I'm a longtime soccer guy. I think soccer coaches have even less of an impact on the game
Yep.
than a basketball coach can call a timeout, can
Yep.
set up a play. You can't do that in soccer. But I would always say game days are easy, because I for all intents and purposes, I'm more just standing and watching and hoping that they're implementing what we've worked on all in practice. The biggest part of our jobs is in practice. That's the gut of being in a team and coaching, is in those training times. And game days are fun, but hopefully they're implementing everything that you've put into them, prior to the game. So yeah, that's cool.
And one of my mentors always used to say, Coach McMullen, actually my senior year coach at Houghton, he always say, coaches win practices, players win games. So that was something that stuck with me too after I heard that.
So Phil, you probably alluded to some of this, but tell us, what are you most excited about coming back to Houghton?
Mm-hmm.
I know in the interview process and so forth, we probably asked that question as an interview question. What would you be most excited about? But now that it's a reality, it's a done deal. It's not sort of an interview thing, but now, and you've sort of gotten into it a little bit. I know you've been recruiting a little and looking at your budget and how's the budget work. You and I did that yesterday. What are you just most excited about, sort of getting back here and being part of it?
I mean, I don't know how many people get to go back to their alma mater and coach, but I do know it's pretty rare, and it is a very, very special thing. So I couldn't be more excited for that. The main thing, the students on Houghton College are something different that you don't see at another institution. I've been around 3 other institutions, 8 years total in the Empire 8. The students at Houghton College are just, for lack of a better term, they're just different. They're special. I'm really excited to be around that atmosphere again. And that's not saying that students at other college aren't special, but something about Houghton students coming in, they just very genuine. I keep throwing that word out there, but everything is very genuine in Houghton. The campus itself is, outstanding. When you start going to other institutions, even institutions that might be 10 times bigger than Houghton students-wise, the campus is just beautiful with great athletic facilities. That are really next level athletic facilities. Even in my time at Elmira, I had conversations with people in the athletic department saying, we went to Houghton last weekend. The K-Pack is unbelievable. The turf is unbelievable. That softball field is like I've never seen before. Like, the facilities itself are just really great. And then, the main reason I'm most excited to come back to Houghton is the relationships, both renewing old relationships I made and seeking out new relationships with people. Like I said, family is what matters most to me. Relationships is right there too. I consider myself a people person, a player's coach. Seeking relationships is a big reason why I got into coaching. And even to go back to the interview process, when I met the girls team on the interview and everybody started asking questions, getting to know me, I got to know them. I knew this was the place that I really wanted to come back to. I knew it was going to be special. The team right now is a team culture that I'm really excited to get back into. The team is really excited about it. So the relationship aspects, both renewing old ones and making new ones, is something that I'm most excited about in coming back to Houghton.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, hey, as we sort of start to wrap up, why don't you, I'd be curious in hearing just a little bit about, tell us more, like what do people not know about Phil Pellegrino? Any other sports that you like or participate in, hobbies? How do you like to spend your time?
So something that a lot of people don't know about me, I was a big volleyball player in high school. Volleyball was one of the sports that I actually didn't think I was going to like growing up. I always wanted to be a football player. I wanted to be the quarterback of the football team. Once it came around 7th grade that you could choose football, I was the smallest kid in my grade. I was a string bean. I said, I am going to break my neck if I go out there and play football. And I'm going to jeopardize the sports that I love most. So I chose basketball or volleyball. All my friends at the time were going to play volleyball. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I ended up loving the sport. Volleyball might have been naturally my best sport that I picked up. We ended up winning sectionals for the first time, became second in the state as a volleyball team out of Rochester. The whole starting lineup, so all 6 of our starting lineup went to go play college volleyball, except for me. I went to go play college basketball. I had a couple offers for volleyball, but volleyball is something that I actually was pretty big into and still am. I enjoy playing beach volleyball. I enjoy playing rec league volleyball. I go back to how we were a baseball family. I actually stopped playing baseball my junior year to focus on AAU basketball and focus on everything. So I guess I rebelled a little bit in that sense. But another thing that people don't know about me. So my dad was a great athlete. My sister played softball. She ended up going to Eastman School of Music, pursuing her voice and education major, and she's teaching over in Boston now. My mom was probably the best athlete in my family, but she grew up in a time, she went to a suburb outside of Rochester too. Like I said, we're all from there. She grew up at a time where women's sports were not very prevalent. They didn't have many options. She ended up cheerleading in high school and the whole way through, but just watching her play and everything that she says and what she knows about sports, my mom was probably the best athlete in our family and just never got the opportunity to show it. So, I guess that's some stuff that people don't know about me. I'm trying to get better at golf. So that's a new hobby that I'm picking up. I'm not great at it yet, but we're trying. Every day we're trying.
Hey, a bad day on the golf course is usually a better day than anywhere else, right?
That's what I try to tell myself. I'm not convinced of it quite yet.
As long as you don't lose many golf balls.
That's right.
Well, thanks, Phil, for joining us. It's been great to catch up. We're obviously thrilled about adding you to the department and to the team here. And so thanks for being with us today.
No, thanks for having me. I can't wait to come back.